trade shows are always expensive in both your time and in travel expenses, in time out of the business, in samples, in getting your collateral right and things. And so you have to be sure that you know why you're attending. Whether it's to meet buyers, whether it's because you want to meet other people from within the industry to showcase your range of products, or if you're attending as a visitor to see what is happening in the market, to see where there are gaps that your products would fit in, to look at how other products in the same category as you would be presented in another country. So often, if you haven't been to a trade show before a specific show, it is a good idea to go as part of a trade group. So to go with the High Commission or to go with another group of people that are bringing a stand together, because then they understand how the trade show already works and they can make it an easier first trip for you, and also control your cost a bit more by sharing space on a stand with other people. And also, if there are other businesses on the stand, then you are all working together as a group to attract people. So it's worthwhile, or to attend as a visitor, to just plan a trip to that country at the time when the show's on so that you can have a look at that show for yourself. So plan your stand layout, know what space you've got, work out what, if you've got a very big range, you may only want to take a small range with you, which range is most relevant, which products do you know will sell in the market that you're looking at, which do you know are legal, do you have packaging issues that you've got to sort in some of them. Make sure you really plan out which products you want to have at the show and that everything is right for them. If you're going to sample your products, is it something that needs heated, or is it something you can just slice up and serve? Really think about how you're going to make that easy. If the stand that you're on as part of a trade group doesn't have cooking facilities or doesn't have washing up facilities and things, sometimes then you wouldn't be allowed to sample. But if you can give people small sample packs to take away with them, you can do that. So just familiarize yourself with all the rules around the show to make sure that you are not going to fall foul of anything when you get there all ready to sample and then discover that you're maybe not allowed to sample in the way that you'd planned. Um, Make it easy for people to register with you. Often trade shows have barcodes on the name badges of visitors so that you can scan them with a pen that they give you, but they charge you for the pen and they charge you for the data download. And if that doesn't work for some reason and you don't discover till the end of the day, what would your fallback be? So do you want to collect business cards, or a lot of people now don't seem to carry business cards. So, do you want to get their contact details from them on the stand and just write them down? Do you have a QR code so that people can scan it and either go through to your website or your social media or sign up for a newsletter with you so that you know you've got their details there and then? Um, Ahead of a show, always let people know you're going. Even if you are coming to a show in the UK and you don't have existing customers here, still have it on the bottom of all your emails going out. Talk about it on social media. Send invitations out to key target clients that you would like to meet. Get their addresses, find out where they are, tell them you're coming, ask if you can see them at the show. It's funny how often I see people's details on the bottom of an email and it says they're going to be at a trade show and I'm going to be at that same show, so you can arrange to meet them. But also, it makes you think that business is going out into the market, that business is trying to get business in this market. So it also just tells people more about what your aspirations for your own business are. So it's always worth publicizing it. And sometimes, even if I'm going as a visitor to a show, I will say that I will be at that show and that other people can contact me on my mobile or by email or by direct message if I've put it up on Instagram. And then maybe we can have a cup of coffee together or something. But it's always worth letting people know that you're coming because you just don't know who might see it. Um, if you're going to have a stand, can you book in meetings already rather than standing there and just hoping the people you want to see will come past? And chances are that when you go for a coffee break or just have a break from the stand, that's when they will come past. So try if you can, if you're reaching out to people, to ask them which day they're coming and make sure you're aware of when they're coming. Make sure you have an idea from LinkedIn or somewhere of what they look like so that you know if you see them coming towards the stand who they are. Just really, it sounds simple, but it's worth maximizing. Have your elevator pitch ready so that when somebody says what's special about your product or what's unique, you have that answer at the tip of your tongue and you don't need to fluff. You can just say, our product is specific because it contains a certain ingredient, it has less sugar than any other products like it on the market. It's healthier, the chocolate, the cocoa is grown locally, whatever it is, just have that one sentence that will hold their interest, have it ready. Also, if you're there and you've got your phone with you only, have your laptop or a little tablet computer, have your pitch deck saved locally on that device. Trade shows are notorious for having bad Wi-Fi because everybody's trying to get online and everybody's trying to see things. So download any presentations that you want to be able to show people or any pages from your pitch deck that you want to show people what your range is. Have it downloaded locally onto that device so it doesn't trip you up. Look at things that the organisers are organising now. In the case of the specialty show at the end of September, in the beginning of September, they have awards, but unfortunately, they ask you to put your products in for the awards by June because they judge them in the middle of July. So, as soon as you've booked onto a trade show, you need to look at the exhibitors pack and see if there's anything that you can take part in. If they are offering exhibitor only events, either a networking event, which many of them have, in the evening just as the show finishes, or a meet the buyer event where you get the chance to meet a group of buyers from specific companies and only people who are exhibiting at the show get the chance to do that. Make sure you do that. And another big tip that I would give you is it's very difficult because you go back home and back into your business having been away for a number of days. But I would say to you, book no appointments in your diary for the first 2 days you're back in the office and just do your follow-ups because having made contacts with people, it's great if you can reach out to them immediately. Even in the evening, if you can spend an hour at the end of the day thanking people who came by that day, telling them you asked for this, so I'm sending you this information now, or I'll be back in the office on such and such a day, and I will. It really amazes people when you reach out to them on the same day that they're impressed. We use a little app that works on Android and Mac called TouchNote, which is a postcard app. And you can use images on the postcard that are your own. So you can use images of your product, images of the stand, anything that will remind them who you are, and send them a TouchNote postcard. And the way that TouchNote works, TouchNote gets printed in the country that it's going to. So say you're on a stand in the UK and a business from Spain comes by and speaks to you. If you use TouchNote to get in contact with them, it will print the next morning in Spain. So they will get it far quicker than if you were to physically post mail from the UK. And it works globally. We've sent stuff from Europe that has got to businesses in Australia 24 hours later. So it's very quick. And because you can put your own images and things on it, is a very good way to send a personalized connection to people. So I would recommend that TouchNote app. And the cost of postage is the in-country cost. So because they're printing it in the country, you only pay for local postage, which can often make it more reasonable too. Um, one of the trade shows, obviously, is Specialty and Fine Food Fair. It is this year on the 10th and 11th of September. It is generally small and medium-sized businesses. Premium businesses would really be what the definition of these products are. So the most top of the range versions of any ingredient or food product. And they would be things that would be sold in UK retail, can sometimes be sold in big supermarkets, but also in independent food shops, premium food shops, and what we call farm shops, which I think I spoke about in the first workshop, confusingly called farm shops, but very often not on a farm, but just an independent store that would sell loose fruit and vegetables and things, not everything pre-packaged, and a lot of gift category items as well. And they sometimes also, this show will attract people who have cafes, which maybe have a food store attached to them or maybe are standalone. They would be going. I've also put in another show that's on in September, a week later, in the UK, two trade shows that co-locate. One is called Lunch and the other one is called Casual Dining. And they are in two halls side by side. And they are very specific. Lunch is largely food that people would eat on the go, food that people would buy and take back to their desk and eat, or just grab to eat at lunchtime. And casual dining is much more those kind of printed menu restaurants, so small groups of restaurants with the same kind of menus, looking for things that will de-skill how their staff have to cook and things. So, but mainly nighttime food, sometimes a little bit of breakfast time product would creep in there too. But those two are very specific. There are other niche shows. I've just been for the first 2 days in July at a trade show called Imbibe, which is all about alcohol and tends to be craft alcohol. And if you look on my LinkedIn, I did a post last week about what it was like, what I learned, the kind of businesses you see. There are lots of images there so you can see what it's like. It's premium small brand alcohol. So again, quite niche. And there is the coffee festival, if coffee is your thing. There are a number of those newer shows that are small shows, but very targeted. And if you have a specific product that fits into one of those categories, it's worth coming to look at the show. It's also worth considering exhibiting at them. And the other one would be for this year would be Cial, which is in October in Paris after the Olympics. So once hotel prices have come down again, although Cial is a busy show as well, over a number of halls. It's a big show, and if you're going to it, you're very often, as a visitor, you're advised to at least have 2 days to look round. Otherwise, you would almost be running to see everything. It looks at retail, it looks at food service, it also has some ingredients, and it has very large businesses and also SME type businesses at it. And people who are looking to buy, buyers will go from right across Europe to that show and also from the UK. And they may fly in from places like Dubai to see that show. So it's a good showcase of international products. The UK equivalent of that would be the trade show IFE, but it is much smaller and perhaps a little more confused about whether you're retail or food service or ingredients. So we would advise UK businesses to look at Cial. Cial is in Paris this year. Next year it is Anuga in Cologne, and those two shows run year about. They don't ever run at the same time. And those are two that are worth looking at and will expose you to a lot of countries. But remember too, that means then that you need to be able to service into those countries and have the right languages on your packaging and things to facilitate that. So consider which of those markets are going to be easiest for you. This is a link that I've put up on the slides. So when you get the slides, there's a link there. If you click on that, it takes you through to an article on our website, which summarizes all the reasons that you would look to do trade shows. So it's just an additional piece of information for you. Then I want to talk a little bit about awards, and my main reason for being very firm about the fact that I think they are worth considering. If you're coming into a new market where your brand is not known, if you can enter the right food and drink awards for your product, then it can really help you. So this year, I've had businesses enter the Great Taste Awards, which I'm going to talk to you about in a little bit more detail. I've had them enter the awards called the Nourish Awards, which are very healthy product orientated. So if your product is something specifically aimed at the health market, it's a useful thing. We also enter products into the free from, so the allergy type awards. There are 14 standard products in the UK that would be listed as common allergens, and a lot of products will say that they are all 14 free. If that's the market that you're in, or if you are gluten-free or dairy-free or vegan, or then those are very powerful awards for you too, because people with allergies will seek those out. Buyers of those categories will look at what wins awards there. So it's a great way to raise your profile as a business. If you can enter, become a finalist. The Nourish Award results are not out until the end of September, but their list of finalists is out already. And we have been flagging up all the businesses that we're working with that are finalists. And even that has had some of them already have calls from buyers who are interested to look at their product. So or if you've been reaching out to buyers and haven't been getting a response, it's a great way to go back and push at the door and come back in and talk to them again. It's good to benchmark your product if your brand's not known, to benchmark against others. If you can say that you won 1 star or 2 stars in the Great Taste Award versus other products that don't have them, it makes people realize the quality. You also, most often when you enter awards in the UK, get written feedback on what the judging panel thought of your product, which again is good to help you look at it from a different country's perspective, see what people think differently, where they need more information, where they maybe didn't understand a flavor profile or something that to you is a standard thing. It's great and a very inexpensive way to get some good feedback from people. Good networking if you enter awards, just in getting your name out there and also going to their events and things. It's useful. Great for your marketing and PR that you've entered, that you're a finalist, and if you're lucky enough to win something, then that you've won. But there are plenty of milestones through that to make more about your product. Again, you get that expert product feedback, specifically on your product, and it can attract investment into your product, or somebody may come and say that they want to stock your product as a distributor. So it can be useful in finding people. So the Great Taste Awards are one that I want to focus on. If you are coming to Specialty and Fine Food, they will have a stand. Their awards are announced next week. I have 65 client products in for next week's awards. We don't know yet how many of them are going to win an award. And so we're poised, ready to make the most of it next week when they come out. But you can also use the logo that's on the bottom of this slide. You get a logo, you get 1, 2, or 3 stars, and I'll show you in a minute how many entries and how many stars there have been. And you can stick that logo onto your product as a sticker or print it onto your label for 3 years. Depending on the size of your business globally, they will determine whether you pay to stick that on or whether you can just use it free of charge. But you can also be a member of the Guild of Fine Food, which is the organization that runs them. And with that, you get to use the sticker for nothing. And sometimes it's cost effective to do that rather than pay the license fee, depending on the size that your business is. But you can use them for 3 years after you've won them. And they're really powerful. They are recognized by both consumers and by buyers as well. Um, this year there have been 13,900, I think, entries from more than 100 countries. It's become quite a big global thing now that people enter from other countries. Everything is blind tasted, so nothing is in its packaging. It is assessed purely on its taste. They don't put all the chocolate on the table in one day. I think this year there were 92 judging sessions, and they'll put a mix of products out. So your product is judged just against itself, not against others. So it's not the best of all the chocolate, it's just a really good chocolate, which is a great way to do it. So useful, or a really good cheese or really good fish, whatever it is, you won't have been judged. And I did a judging day this year. And I think on that day I tasted 6 or 7 honeys, but you can imagine if you had tasted across the whole day too. But you can imagine that they might have put all the honey in one day. You might have eaten 70 or 80 honeys. By that point, you're not really getting the best from them. So it's a very good way of doing. And they have a note writer at every table that writes down everything the judges say about your product, and you get given all of that information. So they say 1 in 3 consumers will buy a product if it has a Great Taste logo on it. And I know if I have 2 products that I don't know and one of them has that logo, I would buy that one, certainly. So it is useful. Last year, 29% of people that entered got a 1-star rating for their product. So 1 star is a good thing. Only 11% got a 2-star, and only 1.8% won a 3-star award. And there are rules. If somebody says that something is good and that it might be a 2-star, then it has to be tasted by another table and get the same score to get it. I think if it's a 3-star, it will have been tasted by 4 tables of judges. So it is really quite, you can see there the percentages. So there's only 40% of people that enter are getting anything. So the awards are really, regarded well. I've also put in links to some of the others so that you can see the Free From Awards are opening at the end of this month. Any product they have that targets specifically Christmas. So they're judging for that Christmas category in the next month or two. The Nourish Awards, their results come out at the end of September, but you can register for 2025. So you hear about it. The Soil Association Awards are the main organic awards, and they run every 2 years. So 2025 will be one of their years. And then look out for things too, like specialty fine food. That should say speciality, not specialty. The Specialty Fine Food Show has awards and things. So anything that you're taking part in, look at. And then this is a link again to something on our website that says why it's important. So I would urge you to go and have a look at that. And there's my contact details again. I'm going to stop sharing so that we can get everybody up and you can ask questions.
So the chat is open. If there are any questions, you could either drop them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll unmute your mic should you wish to ask a question. But Jane, one of the things that I noticed we didn't touch on with respect to the awards, is there a cost associated with the application?
There is normally a cost per award, and they vary greatly depending on what awards it is you're entering. The Great Taste Awards were set up by the Guild of Fine Foods to support the industry, to support businesses. So they tend to make that as low a cost as they can, but it varies by the size, by the turnover of your business. But you can look online and see it. But you'd be looking at, I think, about £100 an entry, because they're trying to encourage you not to block enter absolutely everything, but really to put in the things that you think are your best products. So that would be, but they all do have, I mean, some don't. Specialty food ones for the trade show maybe don't have, but the only way that you can enter them is by being at the show. You see there's something in the chat. No, it's not. So okay. It's just us telling folk they can ask questions. But yeah, they do have charges, but useful often just to get feedback, because often, you know, it is much cheaper than if you went out to a consumer panel or somebody to get feedback on your product or your design and things. And also, a lot of the judges on the Great Taste Awards will be buyers from retail stores, shop owners, chefs, all kinds of people that are really interested in food will go and do a day on, or half a day. They only let you do half a day at a time because they want you still to be fresh. So you can book in for half a day's judging, and a lot of people do that. They would have had more than 500 judges through this year. So it's quite a good way of getting yourself known, your products known as well, with buyers and people. Anybody have any questions?
For the, I did have one other question. With respect to the awards at the trade shows, would you have to be an exhibitor in order to be eligible for those awards?
You do.
Yeah.
You do. So it's their way of making you want to be an exhibitor. But sometimes they come out quite far ahead, but they will also have meet the buyer events and things that they will release the booking for closer to the time. So, okay, there's a question about trade shows, which is more for you than me, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so one of the questions in the chat is, well, the question in the chat is there support for SMEs to participate in trade shows, to send samples to distributors, to support the foreign distributor with marketing? So Export TT does in fact provide some support for those, and that was addressed in the presentation by Rowan David. So what I could do, Anthony, is I can share that presentation with you right after the session. But Jane, on your side, are you aware of any support from the UK for foreign firms to participate in shows or the sending of samples, anything like that?
No, not so much. And I would say, if you're trying to send samples to potential distributors, Anthony, again, if you get sent the presentations from the previous sessions, because you have to have a UK address now on a product that's in the UK. And if you, so you need to put a UK address. So it makes it easier for you to get it through customs if you have a UK address. You also need to have an EORI number and know the commodity code category. You need to watch that you don't send big amounts of samples, that, you know, you keep your amounts small, otherwise they are suspicious of them and sometimes you could get them sent back to you. But if you know what distributors you're wanting to target, I would try and reach out to them first and get them to agree that you can put their name on it, person's name on it, as the person that's getting the samples will also smooth it into the country for you. If you're trying to do it and you're struggling, you can contact me by email and I will tell you, you know, who to try and help you get in touch with people and do that. But there isn't specific cost related support for people coming into the UK market from the UK government. I can see the next question is about the Birmingham Food Show and IFE in London. Sorry, any comments on the focus of, so there are two trade shows in Birmingham. One of them is called Farm Shop and Deli, and the other one is Food and Drink Expo. And they are both on at the same time. When they run together. Food and Drink Expo is more general. Farm Shop and Deli is more aimed at the speciality side of the show, and that has been that show has grown very strongly and would compete directly with specialty and fine food. Specialty and fine food is in London, so your accommodation and things may be more expensive, but also so to go to Birmingham sometimes is cheaper. The other thing about Birmingham is that it's not quite halfway up the country. I'm from Scotland, which is quite far north, and people always say, "Oh, I've been to Birmingham. I've been like a way up the country." And then when I go, "Where have you been?" An hour outside London. But it does make a difference in terms of businesses will come to the Birmingham trade show from all over, whereas most businesses coming to the London trade show tend to be round London. So sometimes by doing those Birmingham shows, you can meet different people. IFE London, I know that the High Commission have had stands at that before. It is quite a mixed show. So there are people there. There's part of the show where people are looking at pubs and licensed trade premises, either for food and drink or for for food or for drink. There's a bit of it that is ingredients. There's a bit that's packaging. There's a bit of equipment. So it's quite broad. And so sometimes it's harder to know exactly what buyers you'll see. And I think they sometimes even have a specialty section on the floor. But where you would be if you were on like the High Commission stand would be in with other international groups of businesses. So again, people would go there if they were looking for food from different countries, that sort of thing. Yes, the UK address could be a family address in terms of you sending supplies in. If you're sending product in, you could give them that as a contact. But once your product is for sale in the country, it needs to be a licensed food business. It's called an FBO, Food Business Organisation, and they have to be registered with the local council. It doesn't mean that they need to store your product there. It's about it being a point of contact. So if there was a problem with the quality of the product or they had to withdraw it in any way, they would want a person that they could contact, and that person needs to be licensed as a food business. As I say, it doesn't need to be your warehouse. And sometimes if you want to bring a product into the country, and you want to do it that way so that you could work with 2 or 3 distributors and not have to print packaging for each of them, you can put that general address on. But if it was a family business, if it was family you were going to use, they would need to register as a food business operator with their local council, which doesn't mean they need to have the food on their premises, but it just means they need to know they are the contact, and they need to understand if there was a problem at customs or if there was a problem with a product in the country, what they would do about it. We also sometimes register as food business operators for people so that they can work with multiple distributors. So it is something that I can have a conversation with people about if you want more specific info. But for sending suppliers and for sending samples to distributors, then having the distributor's name and the address of that business on it. And if you watch last week's session where Laura Strap from Cotswold Fair spoke about, what she's looking for, what she expects you to have done and things. So make sure that when you're sending them samples, you've also done your pitch deck to go with it that explains to people why you think your product would sell well with them, why you think they should take another product off their shelf, basically, to put your product on. So there's quite a lot of work that goes with it. So I would say watch those other 2 sessions to catch up on that, because Laura was talking last week about the volume of samples that they get and requests to sell product, and how they now outsource that system of managing those requests to a company called RangeMe, who you can find, who also operate in the States and here, because they couldn't keep up with the number of emails they were getting to their qualification email address. You can still email them directly, but you need to make sure your product is going to stand out when you do. So definitely give them a pitch deck, make it easy for them, I can say this week, because Laura's not on the line, normally I say buyers are quite lazy. They want everything done, and they want everything done for them. So you have to make it easy for them to understand what they're doing, to understand what support you'll give them, to understand that your packaging's right, to understand that you've looked at the range they've got, why you think it would sit there, why you think your pricing is right for them, what margin you're going to give them, what support you're going to give them. They want it all in one little 12-page document. So if you do that, it will help you. If you can win some awards before you apply to them, that will also help you stand out. She talked last week about already having more than 40 samples of one category of product that she's not due to look at until January to see if she would take something new. And she's only got 4 new places, and she's already got more than 40 samples, and she's 6 months out. So it lets you see the kind of competition. So I hope that helps.
There's one question from Nicole regarding shows between month end September to mid-October. So we would have the Cial Paris. That's technically mid-October. Are there any other shows that?
Not really, because October, November is big Christmas selling time for these kind of stores. So they've all got their heads down worrying about the stock that they bought in June and July for Christmas and trying to get it shifted. And they won't see buyers, and they wouldn't be going out. They're really just concentrating at that point on getting their Christmas displays up in store, their customers through. And so we tend not to have trade shows at that time of year because people wouldn't do them. There are consumer shows. There is the BBC Good Food Show. Consumer show would run in November, but it is really for consumers to come and buy things that they're going to use at Christmas or give as Christmas gifts, that kind of thing. But it's, again, a good way. And if you've got something that lends itself to gifting, if it's alcohol, if it's something that targets men, targets women, if you can make a hamper of your cooked meats, your cheeses, your whatever it is, and target a specific category of person, that consumer show does quite well. But people are also looking for offers and bundles, and so you can go with a pre-prepared offer of things. Some UK businesses would go to it to shift slow selling stock just to clear it before the end of the year. So it's more of a consumer show, but that would be the one that I would say. Hope that helps. Clarify when EORI number is required. So if you're sending samples, so sending samples by FBO, yes. I mean, by then, an EORI number is something you can get for nothing. And a UK, so because we are no longer in Europe, European businesses have a European EORI. We now have one with GB at the beginning of it. So you can apply for that and get that for the UK. If you're just sending samples in, you may not need an EORI number as long as you're sending small numbers of samples, but you definitely need to know your commodity code for that thing. If you've got the wrong commodity code, it will be returned to you. They are being particularly strict with the UK from outside of the UK at the moment because we have come out of the European Union. And so I have never known them enforce so rigorously the rules on getting things in and out, but it has been very difficult for the last few years. And we now have a new government, and the thing that everybody is queuing up to speak to them about, people like me, organisations like the Guild of Fine Food and things, is all about the difficulty for us of sending samples out to other people and of getting samples in. So I hope that some of that will improve in the next 6 to 12 months as well, because I think there needs to be some just things that they never anticipated being a problem have got caught up in the middle of all of this. So it will get better, but just make sure you've got commodity codes for everything that you're sending in. And there are links in, I think, week 1's workshop on how to find your commodity codes and things. So make sure you have that, or ask somebody in Trinidad and Tobago, if they can help you find the right one, because it does just smooth your passage through customs.
Terry Ann is asking, are cannabis-infused products allowed to be sold in the UK? If so, what are the requirements?
So yes, there are some CBD products being sold in the UK. Very strict requirements about the claims and things. I think what is probably best is if you email me, I can email you back a link where you can find, because some of those things have changed a couple of times. So I would want to send you the most up-to-date information. You can do, you have to be careful what you say. People also using social media in the UK, quite often, if we have a client who has a honey with CBD in it, and she frequently gets that taken offline because they think it's a drug-related thing. So it's still not smooth to do it, but there are certain things that are legal. But it depends on the quantities and things too. So I can send you a link that would help you with that, Terry Ann.
So I'm just going to go ahead and share our contact information. Jane. Yeah. So everyone would be able to reach out to myself, to Roanne, who would have presented in the first session, and to Jane herself. She provided us with her LinkedIn, her Instagram, as well as her email address. So if there are any other questions that anybody has, you can feel free to reach out to us to get those responses.
Great. Happy to help if we can.
Yeah. If there are any other questions, I'm not seeing any more in the chat. So, all right. So I just want to thank everyone that joined us today and all of the sessions over the last couple of days. I really hope that you found them very informative. If there are any other specific trade shows that you're interested in, please feel free to reach out to me, and I could certainly look into them for you. As we mentioned earlier, the presentations and the recordings will be shared after this meeting. We'll also be sharing an evaluation survey. We would be grateful if you could kindly complete the survey so that we can get an idea of what worked well and what didn't, share any recommendations for future webinar topics as well. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and I look forward to engaging with you in the future. And thank you, Jane, for everything.
Thank you. That's been lovely. It's been nice to hear about some of your businesses too. So I look forward to hearing more from any of you if we can help you.
Okay. Yes.